All right, so enough of you expressed interest in seeing more of the Ultra Magnus. I'm taking a little bit more in-depth video. Most of you aren't going to care past the first few minutes, but some of you will want to watch all the way through. Maybe not all at once, but eventually. So, I have the only, what I would call complete G1 Ultra Magnus collection. Mainly because I'm the person who cared enough to figure out what all variants exist, document them, and spend all the damn money to acquire them. Other people have nicer Ultra Magnus, but they don't have all the variants. So, basically it goes arranged here, what may be a sort of loose order. So you've got the original made in Japan rubber wheels, standard US box, most people think of as a first release. You've got Takara's release. It's my extra ones that I'm keeping. So you can see the back design. Obviously it's a little different for Takara one. And then you've got when they shifted, well, you'll see along here, so you've got made in Japan standard US box, the Canadian version, the Italian gig version. And then above that, you'll see when they shifted the production to Macau, you'll see it's shifted to from rubber to plastic, painted helmet and face, to unpainted, windshield to no windshield, metal wheels or metal feet to plastic feet, and some other changes. Canadian made in Japan, Canadian made in Macau, Italian gig made in Japan, made in Macau. Later on, they had some variation in the box. As far as I can tell, this was sold in Europe. You see, I call this the double R box, as compared to the other ones. This one has a registered mark next to the heroic Autobot right there. Made in Macau, rubber tire or plastic wheels came in those. And then the hardest box to get, the what I call the MB box. I might have these packed in a little too tightly here. You can see it says some other stuff there, but it's the multi-language box. See, it says MB International there. So even though it doesn't have a big MB right here, like you see with other MB type items, I still call this MB to differentiate it. And then then you have the non-standard boxes, the poster boxes. You've got a US poster box and then a Canadian poster box. Then that wraps up 1986. Then they did the reissues in the 2000, on the 15th anniversary, 2001, they released through some toy shows 800 of these yellow ones. The Shining Ultra Magnus. The yellow is based off of the scene, in the movie when Magnus gets the Matrix, Hot Rod picks it up and it glows blue. In the comic, it glows yellow, and they made a yellow one. I would love for them to make a clear blue one for the movie. Here's the Powered Convoy color one, or Delta one, or movie preview one, because in the original movie previews they had Magnus colored like Powered Convoy. About 1,500 of those exist. And then you have the normal 15th anniversary reissue. Notice it has long stacks on that and short missiles, as opposed to this. They released the 2002 commemorative series Ultra Magnus through Toys R Us. This is the US box. This is the multi-language box sold in Europe and other places. Then in 2012, they came out with what I call the Collector's Club one. Just like commemorative, except for it doesn't say commemorative right there. We've got the English back one, and then the Asian language back one. I forget if it's Chinese or Japanese, and I'm not going to try to figure it out right now. We'll tell you which back. Looks like that. That's how the back of those boxes look. Notice the difference. The backs of that one. So this Canadian back right there looks different than the US back one. It looks like the Canadian gig one's down there. Different artwork. And then aside from the 11 vintage and the 7 reissue box variants, most people might think that there's just only 2 toy variants, rubber wheel or plastic wheel, but each individual component actually has a ton of variation. The hardest variant to pick up is this, the helmet that has no brows, no brow dots. Compare that to, say, this helmet. It's got a dot on each side. That's what's common. These are extras. I've got 11 extra complete in box that I'm selling. And I've got this fleet of stuff I'm gonna sell that's extra. Just throw that stuff in. And then these are the loose ones I'm keeping just for my personal enjoyment to have out. So I'm going to take one of these and just kind of walk through the variation you'll expect to see. I'll figure one to pick up. All right. So for those of you who've stuck with this so far, we're just going to run through some of the things to look out for when you are looking at an Ultra Magnus to figure out what variant you have or what the components are. So you likely have already been to Fred's workshop, his site. You click over here, you go to the complete guide to Transformers variations, scroll down here to Magnus deals with it now. And then here he talks about the variants that him and Brian and Joe and some others had identified over 20 years ago now, back when his site was on GeoCities, and yeah, I think they were in Google groups before it was a thing. And anyway, he transferred it over to this site. From what I can tell, they didn't have access to much in the way of Japanese Transformers, because most of the gaps I see are from there, or other ones from overseas. But there's a lot of good information here to start. Kind of tells you what to start looking for, and so you can see you've got different trailer types listed here, where they're the peg. There's a couple of different pegs, whether they're large or small. So is it rubber, plastic wheel? Is there a large front peg, which this is a small one? Whether this is ringed or not, whether there is a 3 right here. I should probably have better lighting. Sometimes there's a number right here as well. Now we know sometimes there's a number right here, and those circles right there will have a large hole, no hole, or a small hole in them. There's some other differences you can find. And in fact, if you take these apart, sometimes you'll see numbers inside of here. Also, sometimes the ramps here will have notation, like this one doesn't, but sometimes it'll say left or right ramp. Sometimes it'll just say L or R, and then sometimes it doesn't, like on that one. And this brick down here, it'll either say made in Macau or made in Japan. Sometimes it can be a different size. And also, sometimes there are trailer lights like right there. Sometimes there's not. It's just flat. Let's see. Sometimes there's just a dot, like a hole inside that circle right there. I already said there's sometimes a number right there. So those are the main things to look at on the trailer. I've expanded on the original trailers found here in the Facebook group VariQuest, or VariQuest, the Transformers Variation Quest. I made a post here a couple years ago. As I did more digging, I expanded on the notes, and I still need to update that. For the cabs, I think there's some incorrect information here. So this is your standard rubber wheels, made in Japan cab. The variations here are going to be whether that's straight braced like that, or if it's more like an Italian 6 Optimus Prime where it's cross braced. There's comments whether there should be a certain number of dots here or here, but I've never seen any variation there. When you compare this to a made in Macau one, this will be plastic instead of metal. This will be plastic. The head is painted here, but on the other one it will be unpainted. Usually there's not a windshield on the made in Macau ones. However, there's a variation that seems to be transitional where it still has the brackets right here for the windshield, but may not actually have the windshield. I think that's most of the variation for the cabs. Well, for reissues, the stacks will be shorter unless it's the 15th anniversary. For large heads, so a lot can be different here. I already showed you, this is the rare one without the brow dots. Sometimes face and antenna are painted, sometimes just the face is painted. Otherwise, it's all blue for the later Macau releases. Sometimes you'll see a 2 there, sometimes you will not. The inside there can either have that line hole, or it can just be like a circle hole, or no hole at all. Let's see. Yeah, so Fred's site talks about the large head. So, oh yeah. Then this hole in here can either just be square, or it can have that oval circle in there. With my terrible lighting. The antennas can have 1 rib or 2, like this one. And so there can be multiple combinations of this. Like you see here, dual versus single ribbed versions of each of these, but each of those variants can have like a 2 or not 2 version. So in the VariQuest post, I talk about that here, where each of these can be split down further. Guns with a blaster. You have to look to see whether these lines are attached right here, and the size of the circle right there, and whether there is one. Missiles can either be have a sort of regular sized attachment right there, or it can be a thinner one. Or maybe this is the thin one, I can't remember right now. Or the longer for the reissue. Waist plates, so many waist plates. So I like the way that Fred notated this there, because it's hard to show in pictures. But there are these circles, be along each side there and inside there. They can be raised, like in this one, or they can be flat, or they can be sunken down. And then sometimes there are numbers like A1 or A2, and they can be flipped upside down. Sometimes it says B2. These are going to be different size, these circles, because these can be different size. We mentioned they can be large or small. So, for example, I think the plastic wheel ones come with larger ones. So these, if you have the wrong one, it may not fit on there, because you may have one that only goes with the smaller ones, but you have a bigger size on the trailer, or vice versa, and they won't attach right. So some of these pieces, it doesn't really matter so much if you're assembling one. piece by piece. Sometimes some of the stuff variations don't matter, but some of them do, like that. Of course, some are meant to go with ringed or not ringed mounting brackets, and some are meant to go with large or small holes there. Chest plates. He's got a 1, 2, and 3 listed here, but there's actually some additional variation I've documented where for the number 3 ones, they can have numbers like a 4 or a B, I think. Yeah. Large fist. Fred's got a good picture right here, but I think some of the pictures got mixed up. I think especially for number 7. Show to look at the back here, but not just the back, also the top. Where are the circles? Are they here? Are they not? Are they missing? And then bottom, is there a circle there or not, etc. Small fist, it's similar to the waist plate where you're looking at the sprue marks, maybe right there, and right there. There's at the bottom and top of the fingers, and then right there. Are they flat, sunken, or raised? And then some of these, like especially the Japanese Takara ones, have a 4 right there. And then there's variations of that where they may have a raised ridge right there as well. Let's see, the launchers. There's even more variation there. So you got the smooth back, or we've got one where this circle has sort of a ridge around it, which that's the ringed back. There's also these little lines here on the side. They can be thick or thin, or not have a hole at all. The reissues have a T shape right here, and they'll come with springs. Also, the made in Japan and the made in Japan ones sold in Japan and the gig ones have springs in them so they can actually shoot. But the Italian missiles aren't these. They're the black and yellow bopper missiles that are rubber tipped. Yeah. On the sprue, sometimes there's like a 2 here. Styrofoams can have different stampings. If you're insane like me, you'll look at stuff like that. I think all the instruction books, other than like the language, are the same. Not like a G2 Prime where we've got different things colored red and different ones not. Anyway, yeah, if you're interested in this stuff, stick around on my channel, look at some other videos. I've got some good or bad videos with good content. Check out my post in the very request. Or I've got my own group that I'm building just to document specific G1 variations, and other good content in here. And then if you care even more about this this mold and its usages, you can go back to the Diaclone Powered Convoy. I've decided I'm not going to try to collect those, mainly because I don't have the wallet for some of the box variations. But there are people that have some awesome collections out there. I've got a couple things I'll show. So the ancestor of Ultra Magnus, the Diaclone line Powered Convoy, came with a version that has either a red cab like Optimus or a blue cab like this one. These are the Diaclone colors, kind of like this reissue right here. These came with a buggy, which I don't have, but also came with like Diaclone pilots. And there are otherwise it's like Ultra Magnus. These are the bopper missiles I was talking about when I mentioned the Italian gig stuff. These kind of additional variations, like the gig can have a tip up here, is kind of like a little nipple up top. I think there are 2 different waist plates as far as like one's like this and one may have like 2 circles. And actually there's a lot more variation because there's different colors. Like there's really nice looking Makai, or however you pronounce it, version that is sort of shinier, but it's also pretty brittle. Different boxes like the Justra one that looks really nice but is rare. These are the gig boxes. There's variations of that. Unfortunately, I don't have like a sample box one. Actually, I see variation right there. I hadn't even noticed on my box before. Brev Dep. That one doesn't say that. Interesting. So yeah. I also have an extensive Optimus Prime variant collection. Got my vintage ones there, and then off in storage I've got G2 and basically every reissue they've done. Yeah, Fred, Brian, if y'all watch this, both thank you and fuck you for feeding the mental illness we have on the variations. There's a lot of work that continues to go into this for all of us. Thank you. I hope to chat with y'all one day and maybe we can get an updated website going. But I hope someone in the future gets some appreciation from this and it helps them build their own collection. If you have any questions, comment on my YouTube video or find me on Facebook and message me, or even Twitter or Instagram, and I'll help you if I can. Enjoy.